So to quickly tie this up, when Jerome was translating the Latin Vulgate for the Catholic Church, when he was translating Isaiah 14:12, he had a word in Hebrew called hay-lale, and which means to rave or to shine, and he has a Greek word which is boisterous in the Greek Septuagint, and rather than translating those two words, which means to give off light or to shine, he chose to use the Latin word for the planet Venus, which is Lucifer. Now the English translators have come along and they've been teaching about Lucifer as being a dark, evil entity. And so they kept that word there and they just took it directly out of the Latin into the English, letter for letter. Into 2 Peter now, Jerome did the same thing. Rather than translating the word phosphorus into whatever Latin term existed at the time for phosphorus, he chose to use the name of the planet Venus once again and put the word Lucifer into the New Testament. Now the English translators have come along and they have been telling people that Lucifer is this evil deity, and they certainly cannot have Lucifer arising in your heart, and so they put the definition of the planet Venus into the text, which is the day star. And this way they can have their cake and they can eat it too. They have the principal meaning of the word in the New Testament, and they still have their text to back up their phony teaching about Lucifer in the Old Testament. Also part and parcel to this is Strong's Concordance, which is normally very accurate. However, if you look up the word Lucifer in Strong's Concordance, and you will find the number H for Hebrew 1966, and it will tell you very erroneously that this is the only occurrence of that word in the Old Testament, and that is simply not true, as I'll show you in a minute. Strong's tells us that the word hay-lale, which if we transliterate that into English would be HYLL, very close to the word hell or hill, but it certainly does not mean that. Strong says in the sense of brightness, the morning star, and Lucifer, and claims that this is the only occurrence of the word. It'll also tell you that it is from the word howlal, which translated or transliterated would be HLL, and that means to shine, or to rave, to celebrate, to sing. And so it can mean both sound and it can mean giving off of light. Also, if we move now to Zechariah 11:2, and the very first word of the verse is howl. Fir tree, it says, for the cedar is fallen. But this is the same word as the word that is translated in the English as Lucifer. It is HYLL. That is the transliteration of this word from the Hebrew into the English. Later on in the verse is another word, howl, and this is yaw-lal. This is the same word again, but without the H. It is just YLL. It is the same word that we have in our English word yell, to shout out, to yell, YLL. We, of course, insert the vowel E in there and make the word yell, Y-E-L-L. However, the very first word, howl, is a stronger term, but we'd still translate it as the same way. This is spelled H-Y-L-L, just as the word 1966, which is translated as Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12. H-Y-L-L. So we have H-Y-L-L, we have H-L-L, and we have Y-L-L. The H-Y-L-L would be the strongest because it's combining the yelling of Y-L-L and the yelling or the brightness of H-L-L. You see? And this is here the first word of Zechariah 11:2. Howl, fir tree, for the cedar is fallen, because the mighty oaks are spoiled. Howl, ye oaks of Bashan, for the forest of the vintage is come down. And what they're talking about is the cutting down of trees, symbolically representing kings. And so this is what is being spoken of in Isaiah 14. He's talking about the king of Babylon, that mighty king, the king that Daniel pictured in Nebuchadnezzar's dream as the head of gold. You recall he had the kingdoms of Babylon, and then the Persian, and then the Greek, and then the Roman, as gold and silver and brass, and finally having the iron feet. You see? And this is what is being referred to in this text as a mighty king being cut down, that he thought that he was like God. He is the greatest king that ever existed, and being the head of gold, and now he has fallen to the ground, and he's just going to rot in the ground just like any other man. So there is no such thing as an evil, dark deity known as Lucifer. It has just come out of the minds of the Christians who did not understand what they were reading. But if you look at this in context, it will become very clear to you that he's talking about kings. And also I found in the Concordant literal Old Testament translation, they indeed did translate this word not as Lucifer, but as the word howl. How are you fallen from the heavens? Howl, son of the dawn, you are hacked down to the earth, the defeater of all nations. We know that it certainly was not talking about the planet Venus falling from the heavens to the earth, because we can look and it is still there. And obviously, if it fell to earth here, we probably would not be here today. Imagine what a collision between the planet Venus and the earth would do. From the other standpoint, we can go back to 2 Peter, and if we use that form of Lucifer, and Luciferian doctrines is that the serpent was always considered as representative of enlightenment and knowledge. But the church, for centuries, burned books. They wanted people to stay in ignorance. And so they did not want people to know about this doctrine of the inner light. They wanted you to be slaves to them, because that's how you're forgiven sins by the Catholic Church, is by paying them money and doing penance, you see. And they had to have this evil deity Lucifer to hang over your heads and scare the daylights out of you while he never existed. Thanks for listening.